Right. In the interest of time, we might start with just the intros because then people will get the bulk of the presentation, even if they're a minute or two late. So hi everyone. My name's Sally Cannon. I'm the marketing manager at the HRIA and also I guess the champion of the Women in Hire program. So this is something I'm extremely passionate about. So happy International Women's Day Eve. Just in the interest of not keeping everyone on a weekend, we're having our webinar today. We've got an amazing guest presenter that I'm sure you're going to love hearing from. I don't want to keep up too much of your time, so I'm going to hand over to Aileen from Strategic Alignment Training, those who don't know her, but I'm pretty sure most people do. Aileen is our partner in the Women in Hire and Young Professionals Development Programs. So Aileen, I might kick over to you to introduce our guest presenter.
Thank you very much, Sal, and happy International Women's Day to everyone online today and everyone who's in your world that you meet today. It is an absolute pleasure that I introduce you to Michelle Sayers. I'm actually not going to give too much introduction to Michelle because she'll tell her story as it unfolds during the presentation. But I met Michelle a couple of years ago now, and I came away from meeting Michelle thinking that is really useful. It was practical. It was Michelle really understood the realities of what we deal with, and she was able to help me with just some practical things that I could take away from that. So I know that we have only got an hour together with Michelle today. No doubt we'll be wanting to spend more time with her in some other capacity, but I want you to sit back and enjoy, and please use the chat room, have questions all the way through. We'll allow about 10 minutes at the end dedicated to questions, but please feel free to use the chat room, ask any questions. Michelle does create a room that feels really safe and vulnerable. So there'll be no question that's out of bounds. So really looking forward to having you spending your hour with this next hour with Michelle. Thank you, Michelle. Happy International Women's Day to you. And we look forward to hearing your story and taking us through the power of resilience, breaking those barriers and building your best self. And that's one of the things around acceleration for women is really what can we do to break some of those barriers that get in our way. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you, Aileen. Thank you, everybody. It is so wonderful to be here today. Before we begin, I'd just like to start today's presentation by acknowledging the traditional custodians on the various lands on which we meet today. And I really do want to pay my respects to the elders past and present. It is wonderful to be here. I think women supporting women is just one of the most incredible things. And I think there's this beautiful wave at the moment of how do we build each other up? How do we support each other to become our best self? And today I hope to share that with you. I think the hashtag for this year is that accelerated action. And, I think the most accelerated action that we can take is supporting ourselves, and in doing that, supporting the women around us to be their best. I think there's space for us all to thrive. There's space for us all to be in our most beautiful, amazing energy. So I'd like to start today by just sharing this beautiful quote. Empowered women aren't just building their own dreams, they're paving the way for others to rise. And I'm a mum of two beautiful young women. My eldest daughter just started at Melbourne Uni this year. And it has been just an honour to watch her blossom into the beautiful woman that she is. And I think this quote really resonated with me last year when I was watching her going through her year 12 year. And one of the things I noticed was how she started mimicking my behavior. So I'd hear little things like, oh, Mum, I'm feeling really overwhelmed with everything going on. I think I've got to go and have a dip in the ocean. And after the dip in the ocean, I need to go to yoga because I know that's just going to reset my nervous system. And I was like looking at her and going, wow, I've heard that before. And so I think one of the greatest things that we can do as women is to become a role model for ourselves first. I'm going to talk today about us stepping into a leadership role, but the ultimate leadership role that I'm talking about is you being your own leader, you being your own advocate, you being central to being able to manage yourself in a way that aligns with your why and your purpose. Because in doing that, you're going to then send that message to the people around us. We've got to give the people around us permission to do the same. And if we're in that space of hustle, of strive, of just go, 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 of never stopping, the people around us almost think that that's the way they need to run too. So I think as women, we've got to step more back into our feminine energy. We've got to step back into that place of receptivity, into that space of flow, and really give ourselves permission to nurture ourselves. And I think it's this amazing ability to come back to our why and purpose. And I'm going to come back to that again and again and again. What is your why? You know, we've got this one life that we have here right now. And our ability to step into a version of ourselves that is beyond the past, beyond the safety, comfort, and familiarity of our past self, is going to be determined by our why. It's going to be determined by our purpose. So today I want to open up a space of curiosity. If you had to design yourself, if you had to design your best self, and today I'm going to be talking about your mega self, and you'll find out a little bit in the presentation later about why. But if you had to design that, what would you be doing? How would you be showing up for yourself? How would you be leading yourself with that beautiful intention and that care for yourself? Because as I said, the quote is, we aren't just building our own dreams, we're paving the way for others to rise. And one thing I noticed in my own world is not having, as a young woman, when I was young at high school and stuff, there wasn't the information. And so my mum probably she didn't have the ability to show me how to reset my nervous system. She didn't really talk about the stress that she was managing. And I remember it was probably about age 16, I found myself feeling so stressed and so overwhelmed, and I was starting to binge eat. And it was at a really young age that I just switched myself off and I just go and get food. And so from a young age, I taught myself that the way I reset my nervous system, however, I wasn't really resetting it, but the way I was dealing with that stress was to go to food. And I think through the years and through the information and the study and the understanding of unprocessed emotion in the body, we have to start learning how to nurture ourselves through our challenges. We have to start learning how to nurture ourselves through our stress, because the unhealthy habits, whether it's the binge eating or the alcohol or just sitting on your phone scrolling over and over, it's not helping. And our greatest capacity as women to accelerate action is to come back to our own feeling nature, to come back to how are we managing stress. I'm just going to go to the next slide. So I think if you think about the woman in your life, I want you to think about someone that has inspired you. So out of all the women around you, just think about one person that you look at and you, wow, it inspires me. I often notice myself if I'm looking at somebody and I'm, maybe there's a little bit of envy or even a little bit of jealousy. I love that, because it shows me that I'm looking at another woman and I'm seeing something that she's got that I would really love. So I kind of go, wow, let me learn from her. Let me kind of use her as my own role model, rather than stepping into something where I step into the more negative connotations of jealousy. And it's how do we use the experiences of those role models to help us become better versions of ourselves? Because that is, if we're feeling that little bit of envy, it just means that somebody has something that we really want. They might have a confidence, or they might have a sense of ease within themselves. So really looking at those role models that you have. And I think when I was doing a little bit of a research into this topic of what is the biggest factor preventing women from stepping into their most empowered self, from stepping into leadership roles, what I came across was that there's not the role models. There's not enough role models out there. And so because there's not, we sit in this imposter syndrome. For so many of us, we just, well, you know, if no one else is doing it, then I can't. And so today I want to share something. It starts with you. It starts with every woman in this room becoming a leader in her own capacity, in her own world, in her own space. And when you are doing that, when you are learning to manage your emotions, when you're learning to manage your stress, when you're learning how to put yourself into that place of empowered growth, you are sharing that with other women. And that is how we're going to accelerate action. You know, the impact of a role model is not measured just by success, but by the legacy of possibility they leave behind. And I want you to think about that. You know, think about that perhaps even as part of your why, as part of your purpose. What is the legacy of possibility that you wish to leave behind? You know, what would you feel like you've accomplished your journey on this planet when you look back and you go, you know what, I stepped out of my comfort zone. I stepped beyond that safety, comfort, and familiarity of my past self. And I stepped towards the woman that I truly wanted to be. And I've now left this beautiful legacy for others to follow. And that's really the capacity of a role model, is the success. Yes, it's amazing when there's success within that, but ultimately the possibility that you did something that was uncomfortable. The other critical reason that in my research of why women weren't stepping into that is the mental load that we're carrying. And I think even if you guys wanted to put into the chat, you know, the mental load that we carry as women, and just put our hands up if you're feeling that, is just massive. You know, we are the organizers. We are the ones that take care of everyone else. We are the ones that are juggling multiple roles, our career, our family, our relationships. There's so much pressure on us. And what I have heard from so many women that I've worked with is this really, it makes me so sad, because there's this same message I keep on getting: there's no time for me. And my answer to that is, you have to make the time, because you are the most important part. If you are the carer, if you are the one that's balancing all the mental load of the family, who is taking care of you? And I often share this amazing little example. It's like the woman's in the kitchen. She's had a big day of work and she's cooking the beautiful lamb cutlets for the family, and there's two in the frying pan that get a little bit burnt, and she gives the family the beautiful lamb cutlets, and the two burnt ones go on her plate. And I want that to be something that you start becoming aware of. Are you the one putting the two burnt cutlets on your plate? Are they the ones that need to go in the bin, and you sharing the beautiful lamb cutlets with everyone on its plate? So it's only about me. It's about me too. My needs are just as important as everyone else. And just in my own life, I think watching my daughters grow up and watching how they started modeling my behavior, it was because I showed them that my needs were just as important as theirs. It's like, yeah, you've got netball on this night, I've got yoga, who wants to come with me to Pilates? And we created this structure where we worked as a team. We worked as a team, making sure that everyone's needs were met. Because if you're not managing your stress, if you're not doing the self-care practices that are going to enable you to reset your nervous system, you can't step into that place of ultimately thriving. It is, you know, we can't think clearly, and I'll go more into that in a little while. I do notice just in my own life the changes that really making my own self-care a priority has had a huge impact in so many ways. So I do want to share an important truth here, because I think it's really important to acknowledge that The 50-year-old woman you see in front of you here, I might look like I've got my shit together, and in many cases I do, but it's taken me a lot of work to get here. It's taken me a lot of experiences, a lot of challenges. I left the country of my birth when I was 21. I thought, no, I've got to go and change my reality. And then I traveled for 10 years and I came to Australia. And about 5 years ago, I had this little family of 4 that I'd created for myself in Australia. And then I decided that unit, in the way that it was currently, it wasn't serving me anymore. It was creating more pain for me, and I made the big decision to then leave that relationship. It hasn't been easy, the journey, but what has been incredible to witness and to see for myself is the power we have to grow through our challenging experiences, to use those challenging experiences when we're breaking. Pretty much, the last 5 years, my heart has broken wide open. I've been at my most vulnerable state, but continuing to use the self-care practices I share with you today has enabled me to thrive through that. And I guess it's a little bit like a lotus flower. The lotus flower grows through the mud. And one of the greatest things that we can do is to honor our own healing journey and to honor what we're going through, so that when we come out the other side, we are a more empowered version of ourselves. And really, if we look at the word resilience, it is that ability to return to original form after stress or adversity. The ability to bounce back, because one thing that we have to remember on this human experience we're having is it is a dual experience. There is so much duality, there is so much pain and suffering, and there is so much joy. And we can't just wait for the joy to be there. It's like we have to move through the pain and suffering in a conscious way. We have to feel our feelings. We have to give ourselves permission to be in our deeply feminine energy, so that we can then move through that and come out the other end in our most empowered state. And one of my greatest things I've learned is, how do I allow my sensitivity and my empathy to become my greatest strength? Because for many years, that sensitivity, the empathy, the deep compassion I had, I found that I put others before myself, and that wasn't serving me. So it's when we start to go, well, I am this deeply empathetic woman, I'm this deeply caring woman, but my loyalty always needs to be to myself first. Because if my loyalty is to myself first, and I'm nurturing myself, and I'm true to myself, and I'm living in alignment with myself, then there is so much more of me to give to others. And that is my greatest, I put in the energy into myself, so there's more of me to give to others. And I think that's such a great thing for women to think about, because so many of us have got belief systems around, I'm not worth the time, I'm not worth going to the gym, I can't prioritize myself, everyone else needs me. But what if you flip that and just went, the more I give to myself, the more I empower myself, the more I help myself become my best version, the more of me there is to give to others. And that's such a beautiful purpose on this planet at the moment. We're giving from that place of overflowing, rather than a place of emptiness, which then often can turn into resentment. So 4 things that I think are really important to share. Your ability to rise as a woman is as strong as your ability to manage stress, to navigate challenge, and to handle setbacks. There's a saying that, show me a successful person and I will show you the amount of discomfort they can comfortably handle. So stepping into that version of you doesn't mean that it's all sunshine and rainbows. There is an element of discomfort that you as a woman need to get used to being in. The next one is if you let unprocessed emotions control you, you risk staying in a reactive state, which will not align with how you choose to be. And I know when I didn't have this self-awareness, I was really reactive. I was reactive to every emotion I felt. I was reactive to every bit of sensitivity. But learning tools to really understand myself, really understand my emotional nature, has enabled me to question how much of that do I need to respond to? And what does that response look like? How is that response to the challenges I'm facing in alignment with the human being that I want to be? The other thing is, if you let your past experience control you, you'll make decisions from a place of fear rather than courage. And, I think, I'm speaking from somebody who has been through trauma. We've got to do the healing around our past experiences, because when we do the healing and we have almost completed the cycle of that journey, we are left with the most accelerated wisdom that we will ever have. There is no better wisdom than we can create as a human being on this planet than going through a challenging experience, moving the full circle of that experience and coming out the other end. That is courage. That is the ability to use that knowledge of what happened, and what happened to us as children, what happened to us in challenging relationships. It wasn't our fault, but it is our responsibility to bring healing to that. It's our responsibility to allow ourselves to complete that cycle. And more than ever, your self-growth as a woman matters. I can't express, we are moving into a place where we can create changes on this planet in such an incredible way. We can lead with empathy. We can lead with vulnerability. We can use our incredible emotional intelligence to do amazing things on this planet. But it starts with our own self-growth. And so coming back to what I said at the beginning, how do you become your own leader? How do you take back your power? How do you design your future that is aligned with this beautiful energy that you can create for yourself? So I want to just do a little visualization exercise with everyone, if you're comfortable. And you can just close down your eyes, just get yourself into a nice relaxed space. And I want you to imagine that it's a typical weekday. And you wake up and you get out of bed, and without realizing it, you put on this invisible backpack. And this backpack contains all the stresses that you've been carrying from the day before, from the month before, from the years before. And now, as you move through your day, think about what happens. You have some stresses of the morning. Maybe it's a rush deadline, challenging conversation with maybe a child, partner. And each one of these challenges puts a little rock into your backpack. And you're going to work and maybe you miss your train, or there's issues with transport and you're feeling really stressed, and that's another rock that goes into your backpack. And you arrive at work and there's more decisions to make, more unexpected issues that you have to solve, more rocks added. Maybe you get a call from a family member that they're needing something from you, and there's another rock. Then a moment of self-doubt kicks in and it feels like the heaviest rock yet. Can I do this? Am I just an imposter? This is too much for me. And by lunchtime, the backpack feels really heavy. By dinner, it's starting to weigh you down. And you sit on the couch with the backpack on. And your only way to escape it is to step into that place of avoidance. So you put on some Netflix, pour yourself a glass of wine, maybe grab some chocolate. It's your time. The backpack's so heavy, but it's your time. And you go to bed and you put the backpack on the floor, but you know it's there, and you try and sleep, but you know it's there. And you wake up the next day and you're kind of going through that same cycle again and again. And I just want you to think, take a moment to reflect on, what does your backpack feel like right now? How much weight are you carrying in that backpack? Is it heavy? Is it exhausting? Is there a part of your body that's almost gone into a place of tension because of what you're carrying? Are you feeling quite overwhelmed? And just notice, because we will do a quick exercise at the end, just notice where you are feeling that stress the most. Is it in your lungs? Is it in your chest? Is it your shoulders? Is your tummy feeling restrictive? And just when you're ready, you can open up your eyes. Would anyone like to share just how they felt during that exercise? Seeing if there's anything in the chat.
Anyone feels comfortable to pop in the chat, that would be great.
Hayley, I just want to circle back
There's
to
a
what
comment
Hayley
there
said.
just saying heavy.
Heavy. Yeah. And Hayley said before too, we have to stash so much in our minds, and it's time to speak up and share the load. Oh, I just think, you know, if we're feeling heavy, if we're feeling exhausted, who is helping us? My shoulders feel way down. You know, I think we don't even know. Backpack, more like a suitcase. You know, it's this load that we are carrying with us wherever we go. And I think the invisible backpack, it isn't just a metaphor, it's a real reflection of what happens to our body and our mind when we carry unprocessed stress. And if you think about it, every little bit of stress that we're carrying, it doesn't just evaporate. It doesn't just, you know, we don't just go to bed at night and the bottle of wine has kind of made the stress evaporate. It gets stored in our body. It gets stored in our tissues. It gets stored in our nervous system. And over time, that then creates this feeling of unease. It creates a very activated nervous system. I think a lot of people are also saying shoulders, you know, your mind, your shoulders, really feeling that tension. And, you know, as we celebrating International Women's Day today, I just want everyone in the room, to acknowledge the invisible load many of us carry. I know, bringing up my two girls, it is the most privileged thing I've ever been able to do. But sometimes I've lain in bed at night having a big cry, just going, can I do this? You know, the juggling of the work and needing to be the support person and the empathy person and the compassion person and living my own dream. It's how do we do it all together? How can you just take a moment today, just being with yourself and acknowledging the amazing work that you guys are doing? You know, it's incredible. So in moving forward, I just want to quickly, because I know I've got a specific amount of time today, so I'm going to try and just explain this in the quickest, most succinct way that I can. And I'm going to go back to Africa because I want to explain what happens to our body when we've got this backpack and we've got all these rocks. So if we go to a beautiful space in Africa and you're on safari and you watch a group of impala, that are beautifully having some time in the African savannah, and a lion is now about to attack the herd of impala. What happens to the impala is it senses its predators, and what it will then do is it will create a collective awareness of the threat to the rest of the herd, and every impala will then get ready for that danger. So the body of the impala will release adrenaline, will release cortisol, and these are the hormones that prepare it for that immediate action. This then causes the impala to have increased heart rate and blood flow. So that's going to help it run away from the lion. It's going to redirect its energy away from digestion, and it's going to allow all that energy to be redirected to its extremities. What's going to happen then is the impala is going to decide, do I fight this lion or do I run away? Obviously, because it's an impala, it's going to run. And so as it runs, it uses all that energy up in its body to escape the danger. Now, eventually, it'll move to a safe area of the African bush, and it will do a funny little shake to expel the release of the excess cortisol and stress hormones that its body has created, and then it will go back to that beautiful place of mindful relaxing. Now, we are just the same as an impala. However, this is the big challenge for us in modern society. Every stressor, every rock that you put in your backpack, your body is priming itself in the same way that that impala got ready to run away from the lion. So you're going to redirect energy away from digestion. That's why they often say, you know, why can't I lose weight when I'm so stressed? It's just like your body is not being in that high metabolic rate. It is in a cortisol loop where it's just going, no, I need to hold on to food. We are also going to have things like we are going to be activated. The cortisol and the adrenaline in the body is going to be activated. We're going to have a whole lot of different things happening in our body that's going to cause us to get into this highly activated state. And if we're not releasing the adrenaline and the cortisol, what's going to happen is it's going to get stored in the body. That's your backpack. All the stuff just stored. So if we look at this here, we can see the stress cycle. And this is what happens in all of us every time we have a little stress. The body doesn't know the difference between a lion at your door or 30 emails that need to be completed, and you're feeling so overwhelmed by those 30 emails, your body is getting ready to fight that danger in the same way. So we always start with that beginning. There's a threat perceived. We then go into that middle part where we can run from the danger or we can fight the danger, and then we get the threat is over and I'm safe, and my body has used up that energy to run away or to fight, and then we go back into that neutral state. The challenge for how we're living is we're not supporting our bodies to complete that stress cycle, and that is what you felt today. That is the suitcase you're carrying. That is your shoulder and your mind's tired. That is, you know, the heaviness, the exhaustion. It is all that energy that is not being released out of your body on a daily basis. So one of the biggest takeaways I would really like you to consider or become curious today is how are you going to, moving forward, support your body to complete its stress cycle, support your body to move through that natural cycle. Our bodies are designed for short bursts of this survival mode. It's not for the chronic, low-grade stress that many of us experience daily. We're just not designed for it. So in saying that, how do we support our body to complete that stress cycle? And that's what I'm going to give you some tools around that today. You know, we know that if we're stuck in that cycle, our digestion shuts down, our heart rate increases, our breathing becomes shallow, our muscles tense up, and we also have that cognitive shutdown. And I'm sure many of you are feeling that, you know, if you have been in a highly activated, stressful situation for a long time, you're probably feeling a lot of those symptoms right now. So mastering your stress is not just self-care. It's your superpower. It is your right. It is absolutely a non-negotiable, because if you're not, your body is going to show you the symptoms of it. You know, if you think about it, our body is always trying to come back to that beautiful place of homeostasis. And when we're not supporting it, it just sends us symptoms. Symptoms is a message from your body simply saying, no, slow down, nurture yourself, take care of yourself. Support your body right now. And because we're so busy, we just find the unhealthy habits that put us into that state of avoidance, but they don't release the stress. They just simply press pause, and many of them just make the condition or the symptom worse long term. So I'd like to share a quote, because I think this quote is just such a beautiful reflection of what we're talking about today. Between the challenges we have in life and how we respond and our response, there is a space. And in that space is the gold. You know, in that space is your ability to choose your response. And in your response lies your growth and your freedom. And I think if we had to flip that quote around and this is how many of us living, I know I lived in this latter part of the quote for many years. Between stimulus and response, there is no space. And because there is no space, we step into reaction. And in our reaction lies our pain and our suffering. And looked like I didn't know what it felt like to be in that space of discomfort. I would move into binge eating straight away. I'd move into drinking straight away. So I had completely, for many years, disconnected from my feeling nature. And what happened, because I was so disconnected from it, so disconnected from myself, so disconnected from my emotions, I started having depression. I started having panic attacks. I was super nervous, super anxious. And I just thought, well, that's just how I'm made. That's just part of who I am. And what I've noticed in the years, it's probably been about 15 years now that I've really been taking care of myself and really been noticing how I want to cultivate that space. What am I doing? What are the self-care practices that I'm putting into that space to increase it so that I can step into my most aligned space? The more and more the symptoms started to not be there. It was like the body didn't need to shout so loudly to me because it was being nurtured. It was being taken care of. And this is our greatest tool. You know, it's that space, that ability to choose how we want to respond to challenges. In the diagram, and if you do want any information of this, I'm going to offer you at the end just an 8-day challenge where I'll take you through a lot of this information over 8 days. So I'm just touching on stuff today. If you look at the triangle, at the bottom is this beautiful space where we thrive. This is, I call this our mega self. It's a space where we are living in alignment to our why, to our purpose, to who we can be. But as our space gets smaller and smaller, you can see how that's going up in that beautiful triangle. There is no space at the top. And that's where we feel out of control. We've got no space to choose mindful responses. We're in a state of reaction. And I know from my journey so far, I got stuck in a loop in that survival space. It was so, I'd just be, every day would be the same. And I thought, oh yes, I'm going to be healthy today. I'm going to be healthy. And then by 3 o'clock, I'd be buying 8 donuts. And I couldn't understand, why am I just suddenly eating all these donuts when I'm not even hungry? I don't even know why I'm doing it. But it was that I was in this survival loop, and the donuts were solving a problem I didn't have a better solution for. Think about it. That's all addiction is. It's an attempt to solve a problem we don't have a better solution for. And so what we can do, if we understand that, we go, well, what is the problem my donuts or those donuts were trying to help me solve? And they were trying to help me escape. They were trying to help me soothe myself. They were trying to help me reward myself. And when I started to understand that, I started to realize that it's never been about the donuts. It's more about my nervous system. It's more about how I'm dealing with life, how I'm dealing with the challenges, how I'm dealing with the inherent discomfort of being human. So on the journey, I eventually thought, I came to a much better space within myself. It was a long journey, and suddenly I realized one day, I remember so clearly, it had been like 3 months and I hadn't binged it. I hadn't gone for the donuts. And I was like, what the hell's going on? This is crazy. Something has changed within me that I don't really understand. And I look back, and it was those years, the few years prior to that, I'd been doing the meditation. I'd been moving my body every day. I'd been doing gratitude. I'd got support. I'd started to see a therapist. I'd been really looking after my sleep. I'd found tools like I started using a technique called tapping, started doing visualization. I was journaling my thoughts. It was like, how do I get how I'm feeling onto paper? I started stepping into a self-love journey and really looking at the food that I was putting in my body. I went, oh my gosh, it's all these things that over the years I've been doing that the addiction is no longer solving the problem. I now have a framework of support and strategies and tools that are actually helping me solve the underlying problem. And I came up with the concept of mega self. And mega self is the 8 wonders of well-being. They are those 8 beautiful strategies and tools that can support us to come to a place of inner growth, inner wisdom, a deeper connection with ourselves. And it's meditation, exercise, gratitude, ask for help, sleep, emotional regulation, love, laughter. I really think right in the beginning, it's that self-love that is more important than anything, and food. And as I said before, I'd already developed the Mega Self framework and I was using it. And 5 years ago, it was quite an interesting, I'll just share quickly what happened, but it was 2 weeks before we got put into lockdown. I'd been questioning how in alignment my relationship was with my ex-husband to me and my family. 2 weeks before COVID, there was the line. It was a line. There was no questioning. It was black and white. I can't be in this relationship anymore. And we had a chat, and he was going to move out in those next 2 weeks. And suddenly we were put into lockdown. And it was probably one of the most challenging things I've ever been through. It was like it had taken me about 8 years to come to this point that I go, yep, I'm ready now. I can do this. We had the conversation. I'm like, I just need us to move into our separate places. And we got put into COVID. And it was like I was being given an opportunity to really practice what I preached, to really practice putting these 8 tools into my own life, because that next year was probably the most stressful year I've ever had. It was 2 of us living in the same house, 2 of us with our 2 children there being homeschooled. It was financial issues that we were facing. There were just so many challenges. But what I decided to do is to design each day. It was one day at a time. It was, how can I focus only on the things that I can control? How can I make sure that each day I'm doing one little thing, one tiny thing from the mega self framework, so that I move out of this period of my life, which I knew was going to be very challenging, but I move out of it in a more empowered way. And it was the most incredible thing. It was hard, but I really believe the mega self framework saved me. It was the framework that allowed me to be in and move through that in a way that then helped me thrive beyond. So today, I know there's 8 frameworks there, there's a lot there, but I want you to think about what can you do right now on an immediate level and a long-term level that could bring you more into a place of alignment with self. What are the little things that are going to empower you to thrive, going to empower your nervous system? Because self-care, it's not a luxury. It's a necessity. It is the gift you give to yourself. And it's the gift you keep on giving. And I think we've got to love ourselves into our growth. We've got to love ourselves into the woman that we can be, because, you know, the one person that we've got to champion for is ourselves. We can't wait. And I think I was waiting for somebody else to take care of me. I was waiting for somebody to give me permission to do these things. Somebody to say, it's okay, Michelle, go to yoga, because I would feel guilt. How do you feel guilt because you're spending an hour doing something that's good for you? And where I am right now, there is zero amount of guilt. It is, I've got this beautiful connection with myself, and I just go, this is what I deserve. I would love to, there's so much more I want to share with you, but I'm very conscious of the time. So I just would like to spend maybe 10 minutes answering questions, just anything anyone would like to share, any thoughts, reflections, please. I'll just open up the space now.
Thanks, team. It's a good opportunity to either use the chat. I'm not sure, Sal, whether people can actually unmute and ask a question, or will it only be through chat?
That is a very good question, Aileen.
We could try it. We could try it. Who's got a burning question? I'm not sure if Liz has got a hand up or whether she was agreeing with something before. Liz, I'm not sure if you can unmute and see if we can hear you.
Let's see if it lets me unmute.
And also, Sal, I'm just going to try and come in from my phone because there's something going a bit funny with this laptop.
No, I think that was just they were raising their hands from the questions at the start.
Okay. So Tony has, we can. Oh,
yeah, so it has to be in the chat.
Unmute.
So if anyone has anything in the chat, I guess the one thing I really loved about the end of that, Michelle, is that I think sometimes when people give you these frameworks, it gets really overwhelming that you think you have to do everything. So I love that you've got in there, just do a little thing each day. Just drink more water, go for a walk around the block, do that Pilates class, go book yourself into a massage that I was talking about earlier, all of those kinds of things. Like, you don't have to do everything in one day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've got to, like, we come back to behavior change. We've got to set ourselves up for success. And I think this is the biggest challenge we have in bringing in the new habits is we go, yeah, I'm going to do it all and I'm going to go big. And I often say to my clients, what is the least amount that you can do this week that you can absolutely say to me that you can do it? So you put it in your diary and you can say, I can do every single one of those, because you're going to build that success neural pathway. And it's the little things. It is going, I'm going to work for an hour and a half, and then I'm simply going to do 4 minutes of breathing. I'm going to do just a little mindfulness scan. How do you get the people around you?
Question. All right. Yeah. Okay.
How do you get the people around you, your family, to buy into this?
when we're used to doing everything for them.
Yeah. I think when we start creating boundaries, people are not going to love it. And I often will share that it's really important that if you're changing things in your family, it's really important to have that family meeting and to explain where you're coming from, to really explain how, you being the mum, you taking care of everyone, you doing everything is negatively impacting you, and how ultimately you want to be more of your most empowered self to be there for others, to be there for them so that they're getting the best of you. I know sometimes in partnerships it can be really challenging, and I often say, if you can talk to your partner and say, I want to be a better version of me for you, I want to be a better version of me for me, I want to be more aligned, fun, joyful, but in order for me to do that, this is what I've got to do. And slowly, this is the challenge with boundaries, slowly people get used to your new way. It can take time, but it is just doing that little bit by little bit and keeping on that communication. And I think even with my daughters, it started being a thing of, I'm going to go to yoga, but I'd really like to do something fun with you after. What would that be? And eventually they started coming to yoga with me. So sometimes people will start mirroring your behaviors too, which is amazing. So I'm going to just read Hayley's question. Any suggestions on how to add more time for ourselves without getting more stress? I go to Pilates after work, but when I get home, that just means I'm an hour behind with tea and washing. Yep. I totally get that, Hayley. Number one, can you ask for help? Number two, I'm exactly the same, Hayley. I go to a 6 o'clock class. What I like to do is to then, it's almost like, how do I make dinners a lot more structured? So I might, on a Sunday, I might cook up a big pot of slow cooked meat and I'll have all my veggies prepared so that when I get home on those later nights, dinner's ready to go. I think we can have it all, but we can't have it all at the same time. So it's, what is the thing? So maybe Pilates is going to be the thing that really puts you into that space of giving you space. It's amazing. It helps your body kind of go through that physiological change of releasing the cortisol and the adrenaline. It's so powerful. But how can you make the dinners as easy as possible? Is there somebody you can ask for help? Can you get your partner involved? What are the different things that you can do to become a little bit more strategic in that? James Clear, who wrote the book Atomic Habits, he says, we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. And so I'm all about, if we've got to be healthy, and I know the last 2 years with Mia doing year 11 and 12 and Gemma just needing to be at all different things, it was the systems that got me through. And it was very systemized. I've backed off a little bit now, but I'm all about systems. Liz, I like to think of myself as a little girl who's going to speak up for her and take care of her, me. That's so beautiful, Liz. It's like we are our biggest advocate. Who is, and many of us, I was brought up in the 70s. We were brought up in a very different way. Children were to be seen and not heard. I got a smack when I was being naughty. And so it is that little girl that I bring along as my 50-year-old self. What does that little girl need? How do I choose to speak to her when she's having a rough day? How do I choose to nurture her? So I love that, Liz. Tina, I've just started in the last 2 weeks taking time for myself and doing the things I want to do and taking time with my partner to discuss and vent certain things. Amazing. And the amazing thing with our partner is to have that open communication. I am feeling this. I need this. Ask for help. I know we are incredible. I know we can multitask. I know we think we can do it all on our own, but ask for help. If hiring somebody to come to your home for 2 hours a fortnight is going to give you 2 hours to plan something else, do it. Give yourself permission. Give yourself permission for you. I found having my personal phone on Do Not Disturb, aside from the important people, yeah, amazing. It means I can have the time away without feeling obligated to respond or answer calls. Izzy, that is one of my biggest strategies. My phone is on disturb, and then I allocate time in my day where I get back to calls and text messages rather than going back and forth. You know, I think a client said to me yesterday, she said, I'm in this weird loop that every 10 minutes I pick up my phone and I do this loop. She said, it's Instagram, 5 minutes, then I go to Facebook, 5 minutes, then I go to LinkedIn, 5 minutes, and then I put it back down and I'll do another 10 minutes of work. And she said, without even thinking, I pick it up again and I do that same loop. So it's those little things that, you know, we can stop doing those. We can put our phone on Do Not Disturb. We can become more systemized. And that energy then goes into doing the things that are going to empower us. It is, rather than that, doing 5 minutes of breathing. You know, think about how, and I said to this lady yesterday, can you look at the amount of time that you're actually spending there? And what if you took that hour and a half a day and you put that into your self-care? So you're not trying to make more time in the day. You're just trying to be more strategic about what you're doing. Our time is our most valuable resource. We can't outsource it. What are you doing with your time? And these phones are stripping us of valuable time, where we are becoming very dormant, very empty.
Michelle, I am conscious of time because we've only have a couple of minutes left.
Yes.
I'm just, I know that the generosity of yourself is such that if people do have questions, we can filter them through to you post the session as well, if there's other questions that arise. Yeah. Did you want to spend a moment talking about, you mentioned earlier around the 8-week challenge. Is that something you wanted to spend a moment?
So I've got it on the screen there. There's all the information is there. There's a QR code. You guys can just jump on there, and that's just completely free. I send you 8 emails over 8 days with some great tools and pretty much just a recap of everything we've done today. I did want to do a meditation with you all, and I'm sorry I spoke too much about all this amazing stuff.
That was good. So, I'm watching my battery I've left my charger at my daughter's and my battery's like this going down.
Aileen, mine's the same.
Is it? So I'm sort of only freaking with that a little bit. But we could do a quick meditation if our batteries last, if it's less than a minute.
I've grabbed that QR code too, so I can share it with everybody who's attended straight after the session as well.
Yeah,
fantastic. Fantastic.
And there's lots of little tools within that. I go through the triangle. There's little videos. So a lot of amazing stuff just to keep you moving forward with this stuff, because ultimately it's amazing information, but information is not action. And so I would love everyone to just even action one thing that their future self will be proud of, and their little girl self will be cheering you on, because that's what you deserve as beautiful woman.
Fantastic. And I'd love it if anyone has done something.
Oh, there's
Aileen's battery just died. Oh dear.
I'm just going to touch base with Lynn. Lynn, you can still join. You just won't then join the Facebook group, but I'll still message you through email and send all the tools that way. So please still join.
Yeah, I've just saved the link so I can share it with everybody.
Great.
Amazing. Well, it is right on 2 o'clock, and I know people, although we're trying to get back more time in our day, we do have probably appointments to go to, or some people are probably still waiting to eat lunch. So, and make sure it's a nutritious lunch and have a big glass of water with it. So yeah, Michelle, thank you so much. That was amazing. And I know I'll jump on and do your 8-day challenge. I think sometimes I guess we do know a lot of this stuff. We just need someone to give us permission to do all of this stuff. And it's good to get reminded a lot as well. So thank you everyone for attending. We have got this recording, so I can share it with you all to share with maybe your partners and your colleagues as well. So I will share that around as well. Thank you all for taking the time, and happy International Women's Day, and try and spend some time on yourselves tomorrow.
Absolutely. Bye, everyone. It's been great connecting, and hope to see you along the way.
Thanks, Michelle.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.